Hey, Chef Rich here. Today we're going to talk about beef, specifically ground beef. And I know sometimes it gets a bad rap, but as always, we're going to save you money at the grocery store. We're going to save you time in the kitchen, and we're going to get you healthy. And it doesn't have to be complicated. We're going to make it easy and fast. We promise. Right, little buddy? So what are we making today? Today we're making a good old American classic, the meatloaf, with a little bit of a health twist. But we're also gonna add some harissa roasted potatoes and some sauteed green beans. So that's enough chit chat. Let's look at the ingredients. So here we have our 1 plate herb salt, which as we already know is amazing. We have our spice mix. It's a harissa spice mix that we just made. We have our freshly ground black pepper. We have our ground garlic. We have dry parsley. We have some croutons, jalapeños, onions, some cherry tomatoes. Of course, we have to give love to our frozen green beans. We have our diced potatoes, and then we have our ground chuck. So you know what that means. Let's get cooking. So like we always say, we want to be in and out of the kitchen as quick as possible. So we want all the cooking to kind of work together. So out of all this food, the first thing we want to start with is whatever's going to take the longest. And if you guessed it's the potatoes, you're right. So let's get these potatoes cut. Now the potato we have here is almost like a Yukon Gold. And I know that might sound crazy, but what it is, it's a thin skinned potato. So we're not gonna peel it. All we did was wash it really well, and then we're just gonna dice this up. Now again, like we say all the time, it doesn't have to be perfect dice. What we're looking for is just uniform cuts. The uniform cuts is gonna allow it to cook all evenly and all at the same time. So we're just gonna cut that. We just cut the same thickness. Now we're gonna turn it and just cut down. Perfect. One, and we'll do the other one. Again, you don't have to spend time peeling this. It's not necessary because they're thin skinned and they taste good. And especially what we're gonna do with it, since we're gonna roast it, is just gonna add more and more flavor to it. Done. So let's get these other ones drained. Super easy. Now let's drain these out. The reason we keep it in water is only because we want to make sure they don't turn brown. Potatoes oxidize really fast. One of the things we don't want is to have brown potatoes, even though they are brown. So now from here, what do? We're going to season these up with a little bit of our harissa. Now we made our own harissa. You can definitely go to the store and buy some, but it always tastes better when you make it yourself. Plus you know all the ingredients that are in there. And then you can kind of tweak it to make it however you want. Like for ours, we put a little bit of cayenne in there, which is not normally in there, but we like it a little spicy, so we just made it our own. So we're just gonna add a little bit. And again, how much? It's totally up to you. You like it really spicy? Add a lot. If you don't like it too spicy, you just like it a little spicy, just add a little bit. So we'll just add, and I wish you could smell this, because it smells delicious. We're gonna add a little bit of vegetable oil. How much? Just about a tablespoon. Now all we're gonna do is take it and kind of toss it around. Now again, there's two ways you can do it. You can do it the fancy way, or you can do it the easy way. I like to make things a little bit more difficult for myself and do it the fancy way. And all you're gonna do is just toss it around. And all it does is just it incorporates all your seasoning mix all over, as well as all your oil. We'll just toss it around. If you really want to get fancy, and if you don't mind cleaning a mess, you can throw it really high. Oop. But you can see, we just want to get it all incorporated really well. and I still have clean hands. So now from here, it goes into a sheet pan. So now we have our sheet pan. It's already been lined with aluminum foil. You don't need to do it. I like to do it only because I hate to do dishes. So we're gonna add our potatoes. Now we want to make sure we don't bunch it up. If I was to take it and try to cook it like this, what will happen is the outside will cook and the inside would still be kind of raw or uncolored. So I want to make sure we just give it a little shake and just spread it out a little bit. A little shake, spread it out. Now it's ready to go into the oven. Now again, crucial rule, what should have been done first. If you said preheat the oven to 450 degrees, you're right. Let's get this in the oven. So a little chef tip, make sure that heat gets out before you stick your face in there. So the next crucial step, you gotta set the timer. 20 minutes, and we'll be good to go. Hi, I'm Chef Rich, and in my book, I shed light on the marketing and advertising nonsense about food. My book doesn't promote diets, it promotes education into the food that we eat. We also discuss attitudes, goal settings, herbs, spices, and so much more. The main focus of the book is smart shopping to save you money, educational culinary techniques to get you in and out of the kitchen as quick as possible, and leading the movement of resourcing food as our greatest medicine. Visit our website to learn more. Thank you, and God bless. So now we're going to start with the meatloaf. Now it's super easy because we're going to let the machine, again, do as much work as we possibly can. First thing we got to do is just cut up some jalapeños. Now again, we like jalapeños because it's a little spicy. But if you didn't want them to be spicy, you don't have to add jalapeños. You could add poblanos, you could add bell peppers, you can add any kind of pepper you want. So we're just going to chop this up. And again, rough chop. We just want it to be all around the same size. Just again, we're just gonna chop up. We're leaving the seeds in this because I don't mind it a little spicy. Next, onion. So we're gonna, again, take the top. You've seen me cut this a million times. I'm sure you are all pros at cutting this too. We just peel off that brown skin, put it out there. Same thing with this one. And then all we're gonna do again is just rough chop this. So again, we just made 2 big chops, and then we'll just throw it right in there. Now we're gonna add some of our croutons. Now what we're not adding in here is a bunch of oil and fat like eggs and things like that. And the reason we don't want that in it, because remember, we wanna make it healthy. So what we're adding is all these other vegetables, and what does that do? What that's gonna do is add more moisture to our meatloaf. So instead of that meatloaf kind of cooking and being really tough together, now we're putting moisture in there, not fat, moisture that's gonna make it very, very delicate. So now we're gonna add some ground garlic. How much you wanna add? That's totally up to you. I like it a little garlicky, so I don't mind adding 2 to 3 tablespoons. So now we're gonna add some dry parsley. How much? Again, that's totally up to you, but we're gonna add about 2 tablespoons. And our last ingredient is probably the most amazing, our 1 plate herb salt. How much? Just about a tablespoon. We'll just add that in. Now we gotta get in with your hands and start mixing it all together. Now just get in there with your hands. And all you wanna do is just kind of mix it up. And again, the only reason we're doing this is because it makes it easier for the machine to puree everything all together. Now we have ground chuck here, not ground beef. Now is there a difference? Yes. Ground chuck will come from the chuck cut of a cow, where ground beef is kind of whatever's left over. So when you go to buy some ground meat, make sure it's ground and in a specific need, like a ground chuck or a ground sirloin or something like that. Don't just grab ground beef, because with the beef, you're getting whatever's left over. And you can definitely look in there and you'll see parts of sinew and things that I really don't want you to eat. All right, so be careful with that. That's our little chef tip for the day. So now we're gonna get it in the machine. I'm gonna let the machine do all the work. This is my favorite part, because I don't have to cut nothing. So now we'll just add, and again, how much just do portions in there. If you can do it all in one batch, that's great. If you have to do it in 2 batches, that's fine too. We're probably gonna do 2 batches here. I don't want to overwork the machine. Now let's let this thing work. Now when it starts to come together like this, you know you're dead. So let's take it off and look at it. Now I know the color is going to be a little bit off, but don't worry about it. I promise you, once it comes out of the oven, it's going to look amazing. Oh, timer just went off. So now we're just going to get it out of here. And you can see it has all that color and flavor in there. You can smell it. It smells amazing. And again, I promise you, I know the color looks a little bit off now, and it's only because it's been kind of almost like emulsified. And that's a big word just for like pureed well. So we're gonna get it out here. But again, once we get it all mixed up, I promise you, and in the oven, it's gonna look delicious. I want to explain to you what kind of cooking show we aren't. We aren't a cooking show that uses very expensive ingredients. We aren't a cooking show that uses an absurd amount of fat or salt and totally disregards the health issues that we all face today. We are professional chefs and skilled educators that are experts in not only food, but culinary techniques. My name is Chef Rich, and this is One Plate. We'll have success if we do this one plate at a time. God bless. So now all we got to do is portion these out. Now again, we're going to look for about a 4 ounce, but you can see what's happening is it's starting to stick to my hand. Again, one of the greatest things we can do to help ourselves so we don't go crazy is just have wet hands when you're starting to portion these out. So I'm just going to get some wet hands real quick. So now hands are wet, it's going to be so much easier to portion these out. So now what size am I looking for? I'm going to look for about a 4 to a 5 ounce portion. And again, if I didn't want to make meatloaf, let me tell you a little story about my son. I have one of my sons who's in love with burgers. And even though I tried to explain to him a burger and a meatloaf is the same meat, except one has bread, the other one doesn't, he refuses to eat the meatloaf. So if you wanted to make these into a burgers, you could. If you wanted to make these into meatballs, you could. If you wanted to make this into a kebab, you could. It's so many things you can do with this meat right now that I want you to have fun and make it your own. So now we're making little individual portions. Now again, I like the individual portions instead of the big meatloaf because it's going to be easier to serve at the end. Remember, I want to be in and out as quick as possible. And the way I can make sure everybody gets around the same is to make sure that all are made exactly the same. The thicker it is, the longer it's going to take to cook. The thinner it is, the quicker it's going to cook. But we can't go too thin like a pancake because then you run the risk of burning it. So we want to be careful with that. So again, we're just going to mix these up, flatten it down. So we have about maybe a 1/2 inch thick. And you can see that's a pretty good portion size. And we started with 1 pound of ground chuck. 1 pound. And you can see here, we're going to exceed the amount. How come? Because we added all our extra vegetables to it. So again, it's a good way to kind of spread that dollar. Now we're going to be able to feed 6 people here, or we'll be able to do lunch for today, dinner for today, plus lunch and dinner for tomorrow with some leftovers, all with the same 1 pound of meat. So we're just gonna get these going. We got about 1.5 left. And you always have like a little bit left over. That's always like the chef's portion. I'm doing all this work. I think I deserve a little bit of extra. So we got this one. And again, we have this little baby one right here. So again, roll it up, flatten it down, and that belongs to the chefs. Before we take another step forward, what's our main goal? Clean hands. Let's wash these up. Now, what are we going to glaze these with? Because you always see meatloaf with some type of glaze, and usually it's a ketchup glaze. Now, the reason I don't like too many ketchup glazes is because it's loaded with sugar. So we're going to do something a little bit different, and we're going to use a mustard glaze. And I promise you, even if you don't like mustard, you're really not going to taste it, but it's going to give it a beautiful color on top. Check it out. Now again, this wasn't in the initial ingredient list. It's more of an option. You can do it or you don't have to do it. I'd just rather you be careful with the ketchup. Don't add too much ketchup on here. So what we're going to do is add a little bit on each one. And you see, you don't need a lot. A little bit goes a long way. What happens is some people, especially like when you're grilling, they put a lot of a sugar-based sauce on top, and when it gets into that direct heat, what happens is it starts to caramelize and then it starts to burn very, very fast. So we want to be careful with that. We just want a little coating. So we'll just coat each one, and just the top. We don't have to worry about the sides that much. If you want to go to the sides, you're more than welcome to. You can be as creative as you want with it. That's totally up to you. But we're just gonna kind of mix it in. Now, if you wanted to do like a spicy mustard, go for it. If you wanted to create your own mustard, go for it. I want you to make this your own. There goes the little chef's baby one. That's for me. Here we go. All done. In the oven it goes. So here we go. 18 minutes on the cow timer. Meatloaf will be ready. So we have our meatloaf in the oven. Our potatoes are finishing up in the oven as well, right next to it. The last thing we got to do is what takes the shortest amount of time, which is going to be our green beans. So let's cut up our tomatoes first. Now, I love these little cherry tomatoes. I love them in salads. I love them in a bunch of different dishes. But what I like to do is I like to cut them. I don't like to really leave them whole. I think they are always better when they're cut. They take longer to cook if you leave them whole like this. But if I cut them, what happens is I'll get a lot of juice coming out of this versus this. All right, which is what I want. I want it to be like a juicy kind of saucy green beans. So let me just finish cutting these up. One Plate is a company led by professional chefs and educators, and we're experts in two areas, food and culinary techniques. And when we combine them, we have classes that are interactive, engaging, fun, and educational. We'll break down all the cooking techniques and ingredients into their basics, and we're going to cook meals that will empower and educate you to see that food really is our greatest medicine. We promise to save you money at the grocery store, save you time in the kitchen, and get you healthy. Visit our website to learn more. Thank you, and God bless. So again, one of the crucial things that I know we talk about all the time, but it's always having a hot pan first. So we got our pan nice and hot. Next thing I'm going to add a little bit of oil. Remember, how much oil do we need? I know we say it every weekend, but we only need about a tablespoon of olive oil. Once it starts to heat up, it'll change, the viscosity or the thickness will change, and it'll cover the entire pan. Perfect. Now let's get our green beans in. Now again, the first thing we want to hear is that sizzle when it gets in there. Ooh, that's like music. Now, if you had to overindulge with anything, I would rather you overindulge right now at this part with the green beans. Put as much in there as you want, that's fine. So now we're just gonna mix it up a little bit, spread it out. Make sure everybody gets in there. Now again, it doesn't take a long time to cook these, so we're just gonna keep it in there for a couple minutes. But at this point, we gotta start adding some seasoning so it tastes great. So we're gonna add some garlic. How much? Again, that's totally up to you. If you like it really garlicky, like I like it, I'll add maybe 2 tablespoons. If you don't, we want to keep it a little bit more mild, we'll add only 1 tablespoon. But for me, we're going 2 tablespoons here. Now we're going to add some freshly ground black pepper. Only about a tablespoon. And then we're going to add the last part, our herb salt. Now again, not too much herb salt. We don't want it to be too salty at all. Now we're just going to mix it up. Now, I know you can't smell this, but if you could, you would be loving me, because it smells delicious. Now, if you see inside here, you see how it's starting to clump up a little bit? You can see how the garlic is clumping. That's okay. What will happen is once that starts to heat up, it'll actually kind of char a little bit in the pan, which gives it even more flavor. But remember, we're still going to add our tomatoes, which will dissolve a lot of that. So I don't want you to stress if you see, oh, I put too much garlic in there. You didn't, trust me. So we mix this up. Next thing that goes in, tomatoes. So we'll get these tomatoes in. Now again, if you didn't want to use cherry tomatoes, if you wanted to use canned tomato, you are more than welcome. It's gonna work. Now would I strain it out? Maybe just strain out a little bit of the liquid, because you don't want too much, you don't want to make a soup in there, but we want to have some liquid in there. But if you wanted to use canned, could you? Go for it. So we're just gonna stir this in. And you can see it's an extremely easy vegetable dish to make. That's got a ton of flavor, a ton of vitamins and minerals, and it tastes delicious. So now, we're just gonna let it sit here and warm up. Done. I want to explain to you what kind of cooking show we aren't. We aren't a cooking show that uses very expensive ingredients. We aren't a cooking show that uses an absurd amount of fat or salt and totally disregards the health issues that we all face today. We are professional chefs and skilled educators that are experts in not only food, but culinary techniques. My name is Chef Rich, and this is One Plate. So everything's out of the oven all around the same time, which is perfect. Now let's start plating up, because I don't know about you, but I am starving. So first thing goes on is our green beans. And again, these smell delicious. You smell the garlic. We're gonna just plate up with a bunch of tomatoes in there, which is nice. Next thing are potatoes, which they are super crispy. Oh, it smells so good. And again, how you plate it, that's totally up to you. It doesn't matter to me. And when everybody's starving, it doesn't matter to them either. And then the last thing is these amazing meatloaves. One for you. One for me. So just like I promised, at least 6 meals for under $20. That's full of flavor and nutrition. So we're saving you time, saving you money, getting you healthy, one plate at a time. I'll see you next week.